They must be going heavy. We can't see the personnel groupings, but it looks like Gilmore's on the sideline. The Bills are marked out at the 2. So here we go. Heavy set there, motioning Knox, motioning over and in. Give it to Gordon inside. He is gobbled right up. It is now going to be 4.
You got to take 3. You got to take 3.
You're taking 3.
You're taking 3. It's not under 10 minutes left. You got a chance to get a stop. Therefore, you can give up a field goal here. If you give up a field goal, if you try to go for it here and you lose, or you don't get it, you're done.
No, they got the offense still on the field.
What I'm saying is, if you give the ball back to the Patriots, they come out and get 3. You're 2 scores down now. It's 19. You need 3 here, so then if you hold to a field goal, you're giving your defense a little bit of leeway.
So the Bills are going 4 wide.
I don't know. If you want to draw with Barkley, they'll give them behind.
More back. There's 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3, 2. They got to snap it. Barkley gets the snap, fakes the handoff inside, buying time, throws it over to Zay Jones.
Good evening, Paul.
Hey, Mark.
So, happy belated birthday, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. For those of you that are just joining us, that was the clip from the actual play-by-play that we did this Sunday for the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. I adamantly, to start that drive, I mean, it was a 4th and goal. They decided to try to pass it, and they ended up throwing it to Zay Jones, incomplete, nearly intercepted. And I was taking a lot of bullets this week as far as the. I say you get points there, and that's not me being conservative. That's not me, just being the same old Bills that always take points, end up, it bites them in the what. But in that game, in the flow of the game, how it was going, how your defense was playing. Brady had 12 drives, had 7 3-and-outs. I think McDermott didn't have his pulse on the finger of the game, or his finger on the pulse of the game. And in that respect, that's the unfortunate thing that he has inherited from Andy Reid. Mm-hmm. So, Paul, if you guys are just joining us, #Nation, thank you for joining us. If you haven't subscribed to #Sports yet, and you're just discovering this channel, please hit that subscribe button. We introduced on our posts that if you guys want any of the wristbands for #HTagSports.com, what drives you wristbands, we have a Venmo account. You guys can send a private message to us with your address, and I mailed 2 of them out today, so it's they're on their way to their recipients as of right now. So also follow us over on Sportscaster. You get the play-by-play of the game on Sundays, as well as our exclusive breakdown or preview on Saturday mornings there. And you can follow us on Twitter as well @HTagSports. So, Paul, a lot of people already in the chat. Mario, House of Lies is built on pillars of bologna. Bologna are hot dog pancakes, okay? Don't even come at me with that nonsense. So, Paul, it's Tuesday. The game was Sunday. We were high on emotion. I was 10 beers deep in Jenny Cream Ales. I have settled down.
Yeah.
So
then you went on Twitter.
Just once. It's okay. I didn't jeopardize anything of hashtag. Don't worry about it. So that being said, look at him. The shame is implied. Yes, I'm drowning in shame every day. So, Paul, you got a chance to analyze the game. You got a chance to look at it, relook at it, as did I. What did you think about the Bills' performance against the New England Patriots this past Sunday?
So, my biggest struggle with that was the Lee Smith thing is what got me the most, right? I got a heavy dose of Lee Smith, and that was the thing that I kept going back to. Like, what is Lee Smith doing in this game so much? Like, why do I still see Lee Smith? Why is Lee Smith still in? And the only thing I can keep coming back to is that Dable and McDermott were afraid from a pass protection standpoint, right? And they had Yeldon in there on all pass pro sets. They ran the ball really effectively, and for some reason went away from it. I couldn't tell you why, but the fact that I just saw a heavy dose of Lee Smith told me they don't trust their pass protection, which is I mean, I understand you're going against the Patriots, but I felt like that was overthinking it. I really felt like that was overthinking it because they needed to get one more target out there. And Knox performed 3 of 3. 3 targets, 3 receptions. Did a good job. We didn't see Sweeney at all. So, I mean, the Lee Smith thing, I just lost sleep over it, Mar. I don't know about you, but that's just what I think.
Yeah, going by the numbers, Paul, Dawson Knox played 54 snaps for 65%. Lee Smith actually only played 36 snaps, 43%. It felt like Smith was out there more than Knox, but he wasn't. They had a lot of double tight sets where you just saw Smith either have a holding call or some kind of nonsense, and Tommy Sweeney only played 9 snaps. I don't foresee in the future. Lee Smith had a vendetta going on with some of the Patriots linemen, and I don't know why. I don't know what happened, what's going on. It didn't seem.
He and Van Noy were jawing at each other all game.
Oh yeah, and Van Noy was getting the best of him. In my opinion, when we talk about, hey, you need a little bit more blocking, you need a little bit more help on the edge, that says more about your offensive tackles than it does about the tight end that you're putting in there. Knox did perform unbelievably well. He catches passes that a tight end 7th round pick is not supposed to catch in a game of that magnitude, and he just did phenomenal. And I think either his pass blocking skills are not up to par, and they think that Smith's are just a little bit better, or they just need. Remember, this is this kid's 4th game. In the guy hadn't caught a touchdown pass since he was a junior in high school, so he is very inexperienced at this level. So I don't foresee Lee Smith being the guy going forward. Obviously, it's definitely going to be Knox. But I guess there was this one. I can't remember if it was this game or it was the previous game where I think Allen had a turnover or something. And Lee Smith was talking to him on the sidelines. So it seems like Smith, he's looked at as a leader on the team, and I don't know why. But we don't have all the behind the scenes stuff, and that could be one of those things. Remember, we were questioning DeMarco all that time, and he could just be an awesome locker room guy and a leader in the locker room that we just don't know. But as far as the snaps go, he did play. Knox did play 18 more snaps than Smith, so I think a lot of people will be surprised to hear that.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So a couple. First off, as soon as you talk about Lee Smith was a topic before I had even said anything in the chat.
Yes,
so
he was.
We'll just go to some of those. Our last 0310, Smith was responsible for 25 penalty yards. Daniel Gari says Knox was a 3rd rounder, which he was. You said it. I think he's 7th rounder.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was Sweeney and him. I jumble up. I apologize, Nation.
That's okay.
I do that all the time.
Chief Orley says Smith should have stayed in to help with tackles. Knox should be more used in passing. The OC is on the hot seat personally. And then there were a couple comments earlier that I'm not going to scroll up. Sweeney was the 7th round pick. A couple more comments I'm not going to scroll up to see, but they were all kind of along the same line. It's Lee Smith. Lee Smith and Tyler Kroft, right? So once Kroft is back, which I know is a little down the road, right?
Mm-hmm.
But once Kroft is back, who goes? Right? From a snap count percentage, who goes? My thought initially is Sweeney is now your game day inactive, right? Because Kroft would take his snaps. Kroft would take some of Smith's snaps and dual tight end set. Well, he'd take the dual tight end snaps away from Knox, in all likelihood. So, when Kroft is back, I think you get more versatile because you can trust him a little bit in pass pro. You can trust him in run blocking. He's a vet, so you can trust him a little bit more than Knox. But I think you're going to start seeing Sweeney as game day inactive once Kroft comes back. Just a thought, right? Just an initial thought, but we'll see.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
I think it depends.
The guy hasn't been healthy in 2 years, so maybe it's a moot point.
I think it's and what's up, Ronald? I think Daniel Gari is still working off those last couple of Jenny creams. You have no idea. I could have some right now. Who knows? The thing that I see, you have those young guys. I mean, you have Knox and Sweeney, and then you sign Kroft, and then you got Smith, and one guy that we're not talking about is Kroom whenever he comes back. So what do you do? I think in a lot of those heavy sets that you have when you have 3 tight ends, like you said, you got Sweeney, Knox, and Smith. I think that what you do is if you want to go younger and you want the kids to grow and you want the kids to learn what they're going to be doing, I think I would leave Sweeney in there based on the performance that Smith just had. But when Croft comes back, he allows you the versatility to go double tight with Knox and still run a lot of variations of passing plays. You don't always have to run the ball when you're in double tight, and a lot of teams will come out in their base, which is a 4-3 or 3-4, right, and you could still have the advantage in the passing game a lot. That is Rico. Rico is just what's up, Rico? Who's gonna get on Daboll's you know what? Because Rico was all over when Dable was like getting on Allen. We saw that during the broadcast, and I go, someone needs to get on Dable. Some of the play calling and some of the things that are going on, especially when they finally got down near the goal line. I just want to just touch on this really quick. When they finally got down there in the goal line, McDermott did not relay to Dable that it was in 4-down territory, which is why you had to delay a game down there. And you can't take that. Part of that was sense. Sorry, we just went out. The OBS kind of went out for a second, and now they're back. So we're back. For those of you that had a little bit of a delay, we're back in, and we're still live. So the unfortunate thing with that is poor clock management. You call a timeout before a punt that the New England Patriots are going to punt. I mean, I just don't understand a lot of those things. So that being said, someone needs to get all over Dable, and he needs to be held accountable for some of the past plays, some of the plays that he's running, because he's the guy ultimately responsible for Smith being in there that much.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. And from a package standpoint, it was just so frustrating to see the Bills get away from something that had been so successful in the fourth, in the fourth quarter of running the football. They just had no interest in running the football in the fourth quarter. It was just brutal. Apex 0-0 game management was horrible. That's not on Allen. Those were play calls. You look at the packages that were out there. It was TJ Yeldon. TJ Yeldon, I don't think, ran the ball once. And how many snaps did he play, Mar?
Yeldon?
Can you pull up snap count?
Yeah, I got you for Yeldon. Yeldon, he actually played 45 snaps to Gore's 38. So he actually, when they were going more on passing down. Now, we've said many times that Gore can catch the ball, but he's not really a receiving threat when you compare him to Yeldon. And I'm just purely speaking on as far as a receiving threat. I think Yeldon had like 60 catches last year. I mean, he had receiver type numbers. He had more catches than any Bill did. So that was last season. But you just talk about it as a pure receiving back. Yeldon has the edge over Gore, and it seemed like they were telegraphing a lot of things, and that's on Dable too. That's on him. Right. If you're in there and you're always passing when Yeldon's in there, you're giving the answers to the test to the New England Patriots. When Gore's in there, they were firing double A gap blitzes at you, and Gore had to try to bounce it outside sometimes. The guy averaged 6 yards a carry. Why was he not touching the ball in the fourth quarter at all with only a 6-point lead? I don't understand.
Yeah, that was the most successful part of your offense. I mean, truthfully,
Yes.
The most successful part of your offense was running the football, and you didn't do it in the fourth quarter. And you didn't do it with one of your running backs. Like, you gave all your carries to one back.
Yeah.
And the one back who played more snaps didn't get a single carry. That's just atrocious to me.
Yeah.
So a couple things that I want to go to.
Yes, absolutely.
Giscard, we have a new commenter. Giscard is in Panama. He watches our show. He's in Panama. He actually had a comment. Why not use Foster, Brown, Beasley, and Knox in the same play and let the defense pick their poison? Foster was not active. He had a groin injury, so he wasn't available. That is an ideal situation, right? But unfortunately, Foster wasn't healthy enough to play. And Paul Berg calling out the interception that wasn't an interception. Can we talk about that? Because I know Zane Jones is getting a lot of not a lot of people are very happy with Zay Jones in the chat. I echo those sentiments. However, I'm trying to remain as objective as possible. I was very frustrated with Zay Jones after last game. But truthfully, that last interception, with the one on the right sideline, Allen throws the ball over. Number 27, I forget who it was, ends up picking it off next to Zay. Zay's got his hands on the ball. He is out of bounds. We you and I on the play-by-play, we were convinced that it was going to get overturned. We didn't even bother, thinking about whether it was not going to be overturned or not. It was clearly this play should have been overturned, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit,
Okay.
right? Because
the official rule book states that if a player is out of bounds and they happen to come in contact with the ball is immediately ruled dead. Because the New England Patriot player didn't fully possess the ball at the time, or yet, he was just in the midst of getting his second foot down. Zay Jones had his left hand just underneath the ball, and I think what happened, why they didn't overturn it, is because there was inconclusive evidence of Zay Jones actually touching the ball, if he did or not. A lot of people will say that he did touch the ball. I think he had his fingers and his thumb on it. I really do. I really thought that's what happened, and of course the referees didn't see that. They didn't see a lot of things. How do you call an illegal hands to the face on a defender and then pick up the flag? That happened on John Brown earlier in the game. But as far as just pertaining to the interception, that should not have been an interception. I believe the New England Patriots drove down and kicked the field goal on that drive. So they were up 13-10, then ended up putting them up 16-10. So it was a huge momentum shift for the New England Patriots at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a big deal, right? And I think it's clear to call out that possession is with the offense until otherwise deemed appropriate.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So
you have to make the determination. The refs had to determine that the Patriots defender maintained control of the ball before Zay Jones, who would have blown the play dead, because, again, you're right. Any established player out of bounds touching the ball immediately makes it a dead play. Now, here's where it gets complicated. The Patriots player was deemed to have had possession prior to Zay Jones coming in contact with the ball while out of bounds, which is just every which way to Sunday wrong, right? Like, there's no angle that you can look at that and tell me that Zay Jones came into contact while in bounds with the football prior to the Patriots player coming in possession of it. It was the wrong call, and we could go up and down all day long about bad calls. I seen it mentioned in the chat earlier. I can think of at least two plays where Tom Brady, who was called for intentional grounding this game once, I can think of at least another two plays that were more egregious than the one he got called for, that weren't called intentional grounding.
The objective side of me will say that a guy with 6 rings gets the benefit of the doubt sometimes, but good Lord, open your eyes, ref. I mean, some of those calls were just egregious, what was going on in the game. It completely controlled the flow of the game. The one play action pass where Milano fired it up the middle and Brady just threw it over his shoulder like he was throwing trash out. It didn't make any sense. It was like, why is there not a flag right now? I mean, McDermott was going up and down the sideline, him and Hahn, and nothing was called. It just seemed a little out of place. But as far as I just want to get, because Gawries loves when I go to the stats. He just loves when I'm a stat monger, but he just loves this. We talked about the impact that Devin Singletary and Robert Foster could have had on this game. Remember, the New England Patriots had their full gamut of weapons, and the Buffalo Bills didn't. I think that's very important to note when they meet again on Week 16. But if you look at it, Robert Foster in the previous game played 23% of the snaps. He played 18 snaps. Now, if you look at it, Zay Jones played 24% more snaps than he did in the previous game. Mm-hmm. I know it's not 1-to-1. However, Cole Beasley played 26% more snaps, and Isaiah McKenzie, who played 24% last game, didn't play any. He played 1 snap. So if you think about it in this respect, Beasley was taking McKenzie's snaps after he would have came in, because they naturally play the slot. That's what they do. So you have to think that in Robert Foster's role, Zay Jones does not have or possess the skill set of a Robert Foster. Now, let me ask you this, and I'm going to ask the chat this. If that's what had gone on during the game, Robert Foster didn't play, so Zay Jones was in there for his spot. Do you think those interceptions are not interceptions because Foster would have contested them?
I think here's a major difference, right? We're going to go back to the one intercept. I'm going to answer this question by the one interception that was ruled to not be an interception. When the Patriot player dove through the end zone, was deemed not to be an interception. The Patriots ended up taking over on the 2.5. is when the Bills went for it on 4th down. Everybody gets mad that the ball hit Zay in the hands. He didn't catch it. He wasn't in the end zone anyway. He ran the route short of the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
Like that should tell you everything you need to know about Zay Jones as a Buffalo Bill right now. You have to get into the end zone on that route. He didn't. I don't know why, but the contact was made with the ball past the goal, on the wrong side of the goal line. So even if he comes down with that catch, he's got to turn and put the ball over the goal line, which, I think we could all agree is unlikely to happen, with as much faith as I think we all have in Zay Jones.
No,
I think there's a lot to be said about the wide receiver position on this team.
Yeah.
There's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, we talked about it many times during the summer. Like, if you're good enough for a 6-10 team, doesn't mean you're going to be good enough for a playoff team. And Zay Jones, who was the leading receiver on this team last year, is now 3rd or 4th on the options chart of the Buffalo Bills in this offense. Coming into this game, I know a lot of people wanted Zay Jones to step up. Now, let me ask you this, Paul. As a player, do you think Zay Jones is a good wide receiver?
I think Zay Jones has come to be a very good blocking wide receiver.
Okay, because you and I have both have said many times now, and I don't want hashtag Nation to go nuts on this, because I'm trying to get to a point here. I understand this. Now listen, if you think about it in the respect that Robert Foster wasn't there, Zay Jones, I believe, is 100 times better in the slot than he is on the outside. If he was taking Foster's snaps, who mainly plays on the outside, then yeah, he's not going to perform to his strengths. He's a slot guy. I think we need to say that. But then when you have McKenzie and Beasley, my follow-up is, does he have a place on this team then?
I think there's a very valid question. Here's the deal, right? A lot of people in the chat are pining for Duke Williams over Zay Jones, but you have to understand that is not a two-way street. You're not going to have both, right? If you're going to bring up Duke, it's going to be at the cost of somebody else on the roster, right? So who is that going to be, right? And whoever it is that you're letting go, their time here is over.
Yes.
So if you bring up Duke and then you realize that maybe the practice squad was the right move for him, putting him back, you can put him through waivers again, right? But you risk losing him. And you're also going to have to lose somebody on the roster. I think the only way Duke Williams ends up getting called up is if Isaiah McKenzie goes on IR. If you lose a wide receiver to IR, then you're not costing yourself a position player already on the roster to get Duke Williams.
True.
I think that's the reality. Paul Berg says Duke would have caught that ball in the end zone. I would hope Duke was in the end zone to catch that ball.
Yeah, and
right?
and you got to think about it from this way. The play took a little bit longer to develop than initially anticipated where he ran his route. And Allen obviously has a stronger arm than Barkley. So when he released it, he still had his momentum coming toward the ball. He was trying to come back toward the ball. And because it took so long for the ball to get to him, he ended up finding himself outside of the end zone to try to make that catch. Now, my point from saying that previous statement is you have to assume that Zay Jones took all of Robert Foster's snaps, and Robert Foster plays on the outside. Zay cannot do that. Mm-hmm. So you were asking him to do something that he doesn't know how to do. It's like asking Deion Dawkins to play left tackle. I mean, I don't understand. Nothing, Paul? Really? You're not going to just even wince at that comment? All right. Anyway, that was basically for Paul Berg because he loves Deion Dawkins. So that being said, I think you asked Zay Jones to do something that he's not comfortable in doing, which is why he performed so poorly.
Right.
He had to take all of Foster's snaps, and I understand that. That's what you got to go with. But I 100% agree with you in the fact that if you're going to bring up Duke Williams, somebody has to go. Now you have to have a trade in place prior to that with Zay Jones going somewhere. He's got 2 more years on a controllable deal. He's a guy that can play in the slot if you need a slot guy. If a team has a specific need at a slot receiver, I don't see many teams that do, but if one does, he can be a guy that can come in and play for you. But this regime has been very stubborn with both him and Dawkins about their place on their role on this team. So I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon. I think Bills fans will just be frustrated from week to week about what's going to go on with this team. I just have that feeling.
So our buddy Ryan Lasel from Rock Sports is in the chat,
Yes.
and you're gonna want to go back after this live stream just to see some of the things he had to say. But I will summarize a couple of them.
I read him.
Okay, so he says that Zay sees the highest percentage of uncatchable balls on the team, and that's lack of trust from Allen.
Okay.
And then let's see here. What was one of the other ones?
Zay Jones is not a go and get it guy. He's a slot guy.
Well, yeah, but he also wanted to know if you were going to be doubling down on the field goal prediction or the field goal tweet that you had sent out. Okay, because he said your opinion on that was wrong. Could you just give me the play-by-play as to where you're coming from there?
Well, I'm not really sure if someone's opinion could be wrong. It's two schools of thought. And Ryan tends to lean on his opinion being the correct one, which is fine. But my point is this. You were at the 45-yard line with Matt Barkley coming in after Allen got destroyed. He was able to drive you down to the 2. Your defense has been playing lights out the entire game. You kick a field goal there because you go down 16-13, which gives your defense, I believe, a little bit of leeway if they happen to give up a field goal. Now, if you don't believe, okay, Ryan, I'm going to fight him. If you don't believe that, Barkley can bring you down there, even though he's already driven 40 yards for you. If you don't believe he can bring you down there, all right, that's why you're trying to go for 7. But keep in mind what has happened in the past. The Bills went for it. If Brady comes down and kicks a field goal, now you're 2 scores down. You're down 19-10. Mm-hmm. Now you have to have Barkley drive you for a touchdown. He can drive down there and get you a field goal, even though he didn't do it. You know why he didn't do it? Because they were down 6 and they had to get a touchdown. That's why they were pressing. So if that game is 16-13 and the Bills are able to get the ball back, you don't know if the Bills are going to get the ball back 2 more times. I understand that. But if you're able to get the ball back, it was 10:50 left in the game. You know you're getting one more possession. So if you get the ball 16-13, if you stop them, get the ball back 16-13, all you need is a field goal. If they come down and kick a field goal, now it's 19-13. You're still only 1 score down, but you still have no timeouts. That's the biggest point that I wanted to make is you have to take points when you can get them because you don't have any timeouts to stop the clock. You're not going to get 2 more possessions. You might get 1. So that is my school of thought.
Stop running the football because of their lack of timeouts. I really think that controlled so much of those last 2 drives.
And I want to make another point to Ryan is you have to try to tie the game first. You don't need 2 scores. You need 2 scores to win. You need to at least tie the game first. If you don't tie the game, it doesn't matter what you do. It really doesn't. You have to try to put your team in a position to win. And your defense was playing at the level that you could have beaten the Patriots by sending the game to overtime. You really could have done it.
Well, and John Calvin had mentioned Barkley missed some low passes by like a foot. One was dropped. Actually, there was. I think here's something that is reasonable to talk about, right? And I think Paul Berg had mentioned Barkley had 3 poorish passes that were all drops at the end. The one to Beasley, the third pass, that wasn't a great pass, but the two passes prior to that were passes that he put there where only his receiver was going to be able to get it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Those were possession passes. Those weren't catch and run passes, right? Those were how to put it where you can get it. You just go down. We're going to call the next play. That was protecting the ball. Were they great passes? No. I'm not saying that they were, but I'm saying that the intent of those were not catch and run passes. They were possession passes.
Yeah. First down and second down.
Yeah,
I think what people are bringing up.
I don't blame Beasley for not coming up with the one.
And those were all in succession, Paul. Those were all in succession. Like the first down play, drop. Second down play, drop. Now it was 3rd and 10. He threw it at Beasley's feet. Now, if Beasley goes down and gets that, we're not even having this discussion. Mm-hmm. So my point is this: if those receivers could have held on to a couple of those passes, you're in field goal range immediately. So if you kick 3 there, you hold them, you're down, you kick 3 again. There's probably about 4 minutes left, and you're tied. What's wrong with that? Now, you're not forcing your offense to go score a touchdown with the backup quarterback. You're forcing your offense to kick a field goal. And Daniel Gowrie says, listen, and I completely understand where you're coming from in many Bills teams of years past. Well, they've been too conservative. They've taken points and they've had it bite them in you know what. But we have said many times, we've had hashtag Nation agree that this isn't the same old Bills. This is not. This really isn't. So if you're willing to accept that this team is not the same old Bills, that their defense can hold, points are points, and you're able to go down, you could have tied the game in a very winnable game. I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of Bills fans have frustration with today is the fact that this was a very winnable game. It wasn't that the Patriots beat you. You just lost. And that's what's frustrating.
John Marlowe, we used all our timeouts for the Titans game already.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
So it was asked, what's going on with Ty Nsekhe?
Yes.
Deion Dawkins and Cody Ford were really rough, which again, I think kind of a lot of Lee Smith, a lot of Lee Smith playing time. But the tackle play has not been awesome. Cody Ford has really kind of looked a little bit rougher than I anticipated. Dawkins has continued to look rough. Nsekhe, there's times where Nsekhe looks great and other times where he looks lost,
well, I understand, Paul.
I think is tough. And here's the thing, Mark, I don't think that's a communication thing. I don't think that's but we need to wait till the line gels. The interior of that line's getting along just fine, but you can't leave those tackles on an island.
Well, a couple of times that I know what you're talking about too. A couple of times that Nsekhe looked lost. Allen had the ball for 6 seconds. I'd look lost if he held the ball that long. Like, he held up for when he was supposed to hold up. There was just nobody open. And that goes back to, you got to try to outsmart Belichick, which is not the easiest thing in the world to do. And that falls again on Brian Dable. Mm-hmm. So, the interior of that line, Morse, Spain, and Feliciano. Feliciano had a little bit of trouble, I'm not going to lie. He had a little bit of trouble because they were just firing the double A-gap blitzes. They were really putting a lot of pressure on the middle to try to stop that running game, which was unsuccessful, so they stopped doing it. So Feliciano, Morse, and Spain, they are really starting to gel really well as a unit. You're not really getting too much stuff up the gut. A lot of that stuff is coming off of the fringe from Dawkins, Nsekhe, and Ford, though. I 100% agree with the nation on that one.
Mm-hmm. So there was some conversation about the fact that Brady never hit the ground via sack. I think we kind of thought the Bills were going to be able to get a little bit of pressure there.
No.
I think he was uncomfortable through a majority of the game.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's a fair point to bring up, is that the Bills were able to make an offense that has made a lot of people look silly this year. And they were able to contain them for the most part. I mean, really, you eliminate the first quarter, and the Bills outscored the Patriots.
Yeah, if you want to look at it in the respect of, there's a bully at your school, and he says he's going to beat you up at the end of the day, you're sweating bullets all day. The threat of something happening, sometimes it's worse than the actual act. A lot of times, they didn't put Brady on his back once as far as the sack goes. However, they were all around him all day. I mean, he should have had a couple more intentional grounding calls, as we talked about earlier, but because he was back there.
And that was something that I just mentioned in the chat. People, had mentioned that 0 sacks on Brady. Well, it's not hard to avoid sacks when intentional grounding will never be called.
No,
right? You're not worried about that. Just throw the ball into the dirt. I don't know. There's a helmet over there that looks familiar. Let me just throw it over.
Some interesting stats before we head back to the chat. And hashtag Nation, thank you for joining us tonight on this wonderful Tuesday evening, which has been raining all day here in Western New York, majority of the day. Mm-hmm. The Bills' offense, as bad as, if you had to give them for the first quarter of the season, if you had to talk about the Buffalo Bills' offense, I think a lot of people have some negative comments about it, and we're not immune to that, Paul. I mean, we've had our criticism about this offense, but if you think about it in this respect, they're averaging 93 yards a quarter, which is something that a Bills offense hasn't done in I don't know how many years. So they're averaging almost 100 yards a quarter in every game. This is every game. The other thing that you have is that if you were to ask me at the beginning of the season, the Buffalo Bills are going to face Darnold, Manning, Dalton, and Brady would have the least amount of passing yards of the four, I would have said you were nuts. Mm-hmm. And the last thing that I just want to show real quick when I was going through the stats right before we came on tonight is that the combination of Hughes, Lorenzo Alexander, and Trent Murphy have 10 pass deflections. Our entire secondary of Hyde, Poyer, Wallace, and White have 9. Now, does that tell you who's really running the show for this team right now?
Right.
Oh my God. It just that made me laugh when I was like, wait a minute, he's got four, this guy's got four, this guy's got four. He uses 4 pass deflections. I think Trey White has 3. It's just hilarious. It's just funny.
Well, I don't think Trey's really getting thrown on very much.
No, I understand that, and a lot of those are being knocked down at the line. I understand. I understand that too.
I thought Levi Wallace played an awesome game, man. It just flies right under the radar because they lost, but I thought he played awesome. The secondary
Wallace did play
good.
amazing. I love it, and it just speaks to inexperience, because if I was Levi Wallace, that pick play that the Patriots run all day, all the time, they run that play all the time. If Wallace was, a little bit more, if he was a little bit more of a savvy veteran, I think he would have ran into that tight end. I don't even know what his name is, number 83. He played like 4 plays. He would have ran into him and drew that flag.
Yeah, that play really, really pissed me off, because
they do it every game. That's why it pisses you off.
Like definition of rule, right? He didn't interfere with him. He intended to interfere with him, but Wallace was so slippery, he jumped past him without contact. However, that resulted in a no call, because while the tight end was clearly changing his route to interfere with the coverage, right? Never make contact with him. Because he didn't make contact with him, it's not a penalty. So as shady as it is, it's not a penalty by rule. It sucks, because the intent was there, but Wallace slipped by, and it really was to the detriment of the Bills that he was able to avoid contact there.
Yeah, it's something that the Patriots do to skirt the rules of the guy was obviously making a beeline for Wallace. He was not running a route. Like I don't understand how, because there's guys that'll they'll throw up their arms like they're showing the quarterback their hands, but they'll like put their hip out or some stupid stuff. So, hey, I'm running a route here. You know what's going on.
Yep.
But
a couple questions. Eric Jablonski asks, any repercussions for Belichick's son being on the field? Elliot Iser had mentioned that was the guy who Sean McDermott chased off the field. It was Belichick's son who was on the field.
They always do some of those questionable things. I mean, you can hear so many things going on with the pregame warm-up of certain might call, because it's the final prep for your test, and all these guys are screaming out this and that, and that he's got a huge Patriots logo on his shirt, for crying out loud. Like, they're not even trying to be discreet about it. My question is this: how many times have they probably done that in the past and no one has said anything? Like, what are the chances just McDermott's out there? Like, I mean, because usually when you warm up, you do those pregame warm-ups, there's usually the position coaches and or coordinators that are out there kind of working with the guys, not the head coach. So,
right, and you're not turning around looking on the sidelines.
No, you're not. It's anything to get an advantage as far as the Patriots go. And is anyone really surprised at this point? I'm not going to be one that's going to be banging the table on, oh, look at, here they go again, they're always cheating. I already assume that they probably are. But, I mean, you got to think about a team that has cheated so much. You think they'd be better at covering it up at this point, and they're not.
TJ calls it Sungate.
Let's get that trending. That's phenomenal.
So a few people are in the chat. Yeah. Monkey Pete says, "What's the sense of having a big arm when you can't connect with a deep ball?" That's actually very true. Quotes from your mind was talking. Allen's picks were stupid. He wants Matt Barkley. So let's talk real quick about where the Bills are with Josh Allen. So, okay, today is Tuesday, right? So here's the way concussion protocol works.
Yeah.
No player is available for comment with the media while in concussion protocol. So that's an NFL rule. That's in the collective bargaining agreement. Players are not made available to the media if they are in concussion protocol. Now, concussion protocol is one of those things that it could take a week. It could take a while. We saw Derek Anderson last year conveniently stay in concussion protocol for 7 weeks. Why? Because they already had Matt Barkley as a backup, so there was no reason to have him active. They just left him in concussion protocol, even though he's going to be a game day inactive. He never cleared concussion protocol, ended up retiring, right? Was he really dealing with concussion symptoms for 7 weeks? It is possible, right? But this is something you have to kind of be careful with. There's no updates that you can really get. it's just one of those things. If he's practicing Friday, then he's playing, right? It might be one of those where he comes in real late. We're not going to know about Josh Allen. So you need to get yourself prepared for Matt Barkley. And for everybody who is a Matt Barkley supporter, you got to see under the biggest pressure situation you can ask a QB to step into, 3rd and 8, right? With the game on the line.
Fourth quarter,
and I don't think Barkley did a poor job. I just don't think play calling really helped.
No, Barkley, I've had my share of standing on sidelines watching starters play, Paul. You know this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There are some things that you could pick up that, I think Barkley was ready for this game if called upon. I think he's been a professional in that respect where he's going to be ready. But if you want to talk about Barkley, the player himself, I mean, the guy came in a phenomenal. He probably thought, some of these deep balls are open, just standing on the sidelines looking at it and say, listen, you just got to take a little heat off of it, and those would be there. 3rd and 8, he throws down the sideline to John Brown right over Gilmore, who has been beating up John Brown all day, and it was a phenomenal pass. If that didn't tell you that the kid was ready for this moment, I don't know what would have told you that at all. Which is another reason why I was a big proponent of going for 3, but I mean. That notwithstanding, the guy went 9 for 16 with 3 drop passes. So he was on target against the number 1 defense statistically in the NFL for 75% of his passes. I don't think that's bad.
Yeah, and Daniel Gari says, who would you rather have start Sunday against Tennessee? Barkley, a game for you, Barkley or Mariota? Tennessee does not worry me whether it's Allen or Barkley. Preferably, I'd have Allen, but it's even mentioned here in the chat. Monkey P says Allen won't play. They'll sit him through the bye week. Ryan Latzel said the earliest update for Allen will be tomorrow because the team was off today. So what's
John Patrick doing Sunday? I trust him more than Mariota.
Yeah.
You're looking at Mariota. Here's the thing, and Ryan Lasel and Icy Vic, his partner on the Huddle. If you guys haven't checked that out, they're on Facebook on Rock Sports Network. It's pretty phenomenal. It's a great show. It's every Tuesday at 5:00. I believe it's 5:00. Ryan, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I apologize if I'm wrong. However, they're on Rock Sports Network. They have a show called The Huddle, and they talk about the Buffalo Bills. He said, you know what? It's not out of the realm of possibility you hold Allen out for the Titans game, and then. Right. You got the bye week right after that, so you give them a solid 2 weeks. I took it one further because when you come out of the bye week, you're playing the Dolphins. I can't remember who said it, but I think Rich retweeted it. There was something on Twitter that said that the Dolphins-Bengals game might be flexed to the Cartoon Network. It was probably the funniest thing I ever heard. But I am not worried. And this is going to sound very weird. I am not worried if the Buffalo Bills decide to go against the Tennessee Titans and after the bye week, the Miami Dolphins without Josh Allen and decide to go for Barkley for those 2 weeks because I think those are 2 very winnable games, especially with the defense that you have. Barkley doesn't have to win the game. He just doesn't have to lose it. That's the number one thing. Those are 2 teams that you can beat without Josh Allen.
Yep. Well, and if you're without Josh Allen, James Sanders calls out, Barkley is more than capable. I just hope Singletary plays. And this offense really missed Devin Singletary.
They did.
Think of what that fourth quarter would have been, even if you lose Allen, right? If you had Singletary. You're taking all those snaps away from TJ Yeldon, who really, brings a receiving threat, right? And he did a decent job in pass protection, right? He missed the pickup on the last play. That caused, that was the Barkley interception that sealed the game. But for what you asked him to do, he did admirably, right? But this offense is an offense with Singletary.
Yes.
With Yeldon, they're treading water, right? It's just it's not comparable.
I have been a proponent, and this is probably where I'm going to take a page out of your book, Paul, in the fact that I will die on the hill of saying that TJ Yeldon can run the ball in between the tackles because, well, he came from Alabama. So I think he can run the ball inside the tackles. He's a very good receiving threat. However, if you have Devin Singletary in that game in the fourth quarter, the New England Patriots have to respect the pass as well as the run with Singletary in there. If you have Yeldon, you know what they're doing. You have Gore, you know what they're doing. But with Singletary, I 100% agree with you. The Patriots' defensive play calling might have been a little bit different And you might have seen a little bit more open guys in the receiving game and or a couple open holes in the run game if Devin Singletary is your running back going into that fourth quarter. You're typing stuff, aren't you? All right, we got a bunch of Knox talk.
I'm taking care of that.
He's spamming us. Grendel, knock it off. We get it, Knox. Yeah, as far as being a game manager, I think a lot of people always like to put that label on a backup quarterback. It's like calling a backup tackle a swing tackle when he can't play either side. Barkley will do enough for you to win the game and not lose it. What you got to do, you got to heavily rely on the run game. Barkley will not have that cannon that Allen has, and he may not hit those 40-yard bombs because we don't know if he can hit those consistently. But he will get the ball into the hands of his playmakers immediately. Mm-hmm. Now, how does that change the Titans' game plan as far as if they're going to play Allen or Barkley? Well, they'll probably have a little bit more blitz packages designated for Barkley because they know he's not as mobile as Josh Allen is. There might be a little bit more man coverage with Barkley. And you may see 5 rushers on a majority of the plays, even to support the run as well as the pass to try to get after Barkley. Those are some of the things that you'll probably see. But, I'm with a lot of the Buffalo Bills fans, Paul, in this past game where it's like it got away. This one got away.
I think there is something to be said for when Barkley came into the game, he was able to immediately move the ball down the field by not doing anything special, just waiting for coverage to set and finding an open guy. And surprise, surprise, not all of them were downfield, right? And that was the one thing that we had talked about on the pregame was the Patriots were going to make Allen beat them with the deep throw. Right? They're going to say, listen, you want to take that, you want to try those deep throws, you go right ahead. You go right ahead and try. Because as coverage breaks down and as Allen starts buying time, he does continue to look downfield, which again is a great trait, but he doesn't know when to stop that, right? Mm-hmm. He hasn't learned when to check back and find those early and open routes because that's immediately what you saw Barkley do. Barkley, coverage goes out, receivers run their routes. Okay, there's Yeldon. I'm just going to throw it to him. There's nobody around him. Right. Whereas Allen would have bought some time and then tried to throw it 65 yards downfield. So I think the game plan was very obvious when Barkley came in that what they were doing was they were saying, okay, we'll get those short routes. If you want to hit them right away, you can go ahead and do that. But if you want to start buying time for yourself, we're going to shut all that down. Because that's where Allen is really dangerous is when he starts buying time and he could scramble and when he could start being creative. Yes, major risk factors, right? Interceptions happen when Allen starts trying to buy time, right? And that's what the Patriots wanted. They wanted Allen to start to try and be creative and get out of play call a little. And as soon as Barkley got in there, you saw that the Patriots defense, what they had prepared for, was not going to work against Matt Barkley. However, it still didn't seem to matter. The Bills still couldn't put up any points.
Here's my
whatever.
Here's my question though. And this is what kind of gets me about Dable sometimes, and I could be completely off. It's happened quite a bit in the past. You got to think that Josh Allen, being the quarterback that he is, he's taking a majority of the snaps with the ones throughout the week to game plan and prepare for the New England Patriots or whoever team that they're playing. So he's taking all the snaps with the ones. What does that mean? That means that the playbook is a little bit more limited with Matt Barkley in there, and rightfully so. Your backup quarterback doesn't see a lot of the plays that have to be called. You have to limit the play calling because of the differences in abilities of Allen and Barkley. Do you think that in the game, when Barkley came in, he was playing with such a simplified playbook that Dable simplified the playbook a little bit more for him when he came in? Would you agree on that point? Because it was just basic stuff.
I would say that that's feasible.
Okay. I'll take that, because if that's feasible, that is something that Dable should have done when Allen was still in there and struggling, is go back to bread and butter plays, the basic things that you know how to do on this offense, instead of still trying to do things. He had to know by the third quarter things weren't opening up. Allen wasn't hitting the guys that he needed to hit, or what was going on. The scheme wasn't right. You had to bring it back to square one. You're still in the damn game. Uh-huh. You know what I mean? Just simplify things for the kid and try to make it a little easier on him, because you could tell by the end of that third quarter, his confidence was shot. He was sitting on the sideline just staring a hole through the screen. and he needed a little bit of a pick me up. What you do when that happens is you go to plays that he likes and that he's comfortable with. And I don't think Dable did that. But when Barkley comes in, he goes, well, I got the backup. I can only run this set of plays with him because I have to take these off the table because he doesn't have Allen's athleticism. I got to take this off the table because he hasn't run those. Here's what we're going to go with Matt Barkley. And they were probably plays that Barkley's comfortable with, and he was able to execute. So why didn't you do that for Allen when he was still in there? So I don't understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Run the ball, Heather Smith. Amen, Heather.
Yeah, I think so much could be just summed up. And I know a lot of people are calling for Matt Barkley and are actually excited to see him start, which I know Buffalo has this, backup quarterback infatuation, right? So I get that this is always a constant revolving door, and we're kind of used to having that dialogue. But the one thing that I want to caution here is this team, from an organizational standpoint, from a front office standpoint, is so tied to Josh Allen that coaches will change before quarterbacks change. That is just a fact here. They will change the coaches before they change the quarterback. They'll change your coordinator. That's what they're going to do. If Josh Allen isn't succeeding for whatever reason, they're going to change the people that are in his ear before they change the quarterback long term. And that's just a fact, man. I don't know how else to say it other than that. That is just simply a fact.
We've seen that many times in a lot of different sports arenas. Like you see that in you see that in a bunch of different sports. They'll go with the player over the coach because they think that, okay, you weren't able to work with him. He's such a phenomenal talent. We're investing all this money in him. We'll get somebody else to do it for you. Right. They are tied to it, though. I mean, any kind of coaching regime that you have that is over the past 5 years, if there was a new GM and there was a new head coach, they went and got their guy immediately, and then they're completely tied to that guy for as long as their tenure is, unless the tenure is this short and they're going to just get rid of him. I don't think we're there yet. That's the only thing. I just don't think we're there yet. However, something's got to happen. I mean, but if you would have told me at the beginning of the season, Paul, you're going to be 3-1 after the first quarter of the season, and we had mentioned many a times that the teams that beat New England Patriots in September usually don't see postseason play, so I'm kind of all right with this. But you're 3-1. You played the defending Super Bowl champions as tough as they wanted to be played ever. You solidify that your defense is one of the top defenses, if not top 3 in the NFL, regardless of points and yard. You haven't given up a 250-yard passer in like 700 games. I can't remember. But your offense is still not there yet, and they have to get there. And we've seen teams with worse offenses make a playoff run. Yep. Blake Bortles made it to the AFC Championship game, for crying out loud. I mean, we have the ceiling is there for the Buffalo Bills. So as many things as we're upset about now in the moment of this New England Patriot loss, there's still a bunch of things that are positive about this team moving forward.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of positives. There really are. There are a lot of positives about this team. I think one of the hot topics that we'd be remiss without talking about, and Grendel says Matt Barkley needs to mentor Josh like Crash Davis did to Nuke LaLoosh. That's, I think, anytime you can make a Bull Durham reference, you make Bull Durham reference.
I love it.
It's a given. John Rach says it's not Allen, it's our tackles. I think there's something to be said about pass protection. Ryan Lasel calls out Allen's footwork was terrible, but Allen's footwork in college was something that was a major cause for concern. Those are really, really tough habits to break. We talked about it in his pre-draft process. He's real wide. And in the NFL, you don't have wide pockets like that. And his footwork on the short pass was rough. And then right before that, TJ called out that Allen missed a lot of those underneath passes that were called earlier in the game, which is absolutely true. It was tough, man. It was tough. It was just a tough game to watch in that first quarter. I didn't know if we were going to make it calling the play-by-play, but we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the hit on Allen, because
absolutely
my perspective on this is a little bit different than I think some of the fans, and that's not a bad thing. I just want to have an honest conversation about it. Right?
I could take the fans' point on this.
I don't think that's. I think if you want to do that, that's fine. You know, so just to kind of recap real quick, the hit was a non-ejection play according to the league, and when the league went back and reviewed it, they determined it was not at the level for an ejection. Right? Vontez Perfect clearly showed you what an ejection level hit looked like.
He did, and he's not playing anymore this year because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, initial reaction is, you know, I got to be honest, and if a lot of you, if you haven't seen the Micah Hyde comment about the hit, it's on Twitter somewhere. You can find it. I think I may have retweeted it during my 10 Jenny Cream Ale evening, but that notwithstanding, he said, listen, if that hit happened to 12 to Brady, you knew there were going to be some flags. And unfortunately for us and everyone else in the AFC East and the AFC and the NFL, he has earned that. He has earned that distinction that if he's ever outside of the pocket and a guy leaves his feet to hit him, he's going to get the benefit of the doubt. This is an argument that Cam Newton has been preaching for years. He said, listen, I know I'm a mobile quarterback and I know that I can run the ball. However, when I'm out of the pocket, I still need to be protected, and guys aren't doing that. And even some of the hashtag Nation and some of the Bills fans have compared Allen to Newton. So it's just not a surprise that he's taken a shot, an unnecessary shot. We tell him he should be getting down a bunch of times. My initial reaction, should the guy have been ejected? Yes. In a game like that, will he be ejected? No. But I have a strong feeling that if it had been Jordan Poyer leaving his feet, knocking Tom Brady out of the game, I don't think Poyer still would have been in the game. I just have that feeling. It's not being a Buffalo bias. I just feel that that's what would have happened because Brady doesn't get outside the pocket like that. Allen does. So give me your take on this, Paul. I'm very interested to see what you have.
Yeah, I think you brought up a very important differentiation at the end of what you were saying, right? But I want to get to Hen Dog 24.
Okay.
I love Allen's determination to extend plays, but that's all he knows since college. He was the best player on the field at Wyoming, and last year, and he needs to realize that it's okay to throw the ball away. Allen has a tendency to try and make everything happen and salvage every play when you can't salvage every play. Now, with that being said, we've seen Allen scramble and dive head first.
Yes.
Seen him do it.
Yeah.
And that is a dangerous game to play. We've seen Allen jump over people. And while that is exciting, it's terrifying, right? Because of 6 inches higher, and that might be his season, right? So it's a very dangerous game to play with Josh Allen.
His career, Paul. His career. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a dangerous game to play. So there's a major difference between saying something about Tom Brady and saying something about Josh Allen in similar circumstances.
Yes, it is.
If Brady is running for a first down in the way that Josh Allen did on that play, something is terribly wrong, right? He's trying to run out of the stadium because it has caught fire. It's the only way that Tom Brady is running between the hashes for 8 yards. It's the only way it's happening, right? But this is part of Allen's game. So he's going to take hits. And if you like Josh Allen with the football in his hands and running, these things are going to happen. Now, I think it's easy to stand on helmet to helmet should be an automatic ejection, right? I think it's easy to stand on that. But remember that has to be called both ways. It primarily impacts defensive players, right? That any helmet to helmet contact is primarily, if you're going to have ejections, it's primarily going to impact defensive players, right? Because how often are you going to see an offensive player initiate helmet to helmet contact? You're really not, right? So this is primarily going to be a defensive player problem. That's one. Two is that you're then saying we're going to eject defensive players more often than offensive players. It's not a balanced rule, right? So there's that. And I understand safety. I get that, right? But I'm just trying to unpack some of this. Now, with all that being said, Allen is on his way to the ground, right? Helmet gets hit. I don't think that the guy was leading with the crown of the helmet to intentionally hurt Josh Allen with the crown of his helmet. Did Allen go out? It looked like he got knocked unconscious. I know Ryan had mentioned that he went out, right? And I trust Ryan when he says that. It looked like he went out. I agree that he went out. Mario, you agree that he was out?
Oh, he's done. He was done.
Yeah.
He was seeing stars, man.
Now, the result is not, to me, the most important thing. It was the player intentionally leading with the crown of his helmet to injure another player? My answer to that is no. I don't think his intent was to try and knock him.
Defenders are maniacs, man. They're always trying to hurt somebody.
I understand that. I do. You want to hit the guy as hard as you can, but I don't. He didn't show the signs of somebody who is trying to intentionally hurt a player who was already being hit and on his way to the ground. There's just too much there for me to tell you that it was the intent was more than malicious.
Well, yeah, Eric Jablonski comes in. He says Allen also hit the ground hard. I was just about to make a point. When we watched the replay and when we called it, that was the one thing that I was looking for after he had already taken the hit up top. His helmet didn't hit the ground. You know, he fell on like the side and on his shoulder, and his head turned, but his helmet did not smack off of the ground. I think that's a very important point for a lot of the concussion protocol that may come out this week, is the fact that he took majority of the hit was from the player, and it wasn't, because a lot of these concussions we see guys out for 2-3 weeks. It's because they get hit and they hit the ground with their head and it snaps against the ground, and that's usually. And I don't think Allen's head hit the turf very, very hard. I think that's one thing that I observed. I mean, I could be wrong, but that was one of the things that I observed from the hit. Are you upset, and or I'll even throw us to #Nation. Are you guys upset that there wasn't any repercussions from that, or do you think that there was no repercussions because the game was so close? Because I know a lot of people were mad on Twitter that Milano, Edmonds, Hughes, nobody went after Brady after that. Grendel, he agrees.
I don't know.
Daniel
here's the thing. I look at the culture that McDermott preaches, and McDermott preaches family. So part of me is kind of surprised that nothing happened.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think we all saw a little smile on Sean McDermott's face when Shaq Lawson and Leonard Fournette got the heave-ho at home last year, right? A little part of McDermott was like, you did a good job protecting your house, right? It was at home. Shaq Lawson was now wrong in that scenario. So part of me wants to agree with you, right? But I don't know. That's a tough call. That's a tough call.
I know. And Ryan Lacy puts in the chat. He says, more upset no one went after the player who hit Allen right in the moment. You know what I mean? We've seen a similar scenario with hockey when Lucic ran Miller many years ago. Gostad, I think, was the only guy that went after him that I remember, right. But no one else did. But I think now, could you take that? I don't know. This is weird. I'm trying to get a positive spin on this because nobody went after Brady or the player. Could you take that as he has a very disciplined team that doesn't get high on emotion? Or is this just a cop out? Because I'm willing to accept that too. I'm fine with that. Yeah. Probably could be a cop out. I don't know.
I don't know. You would think that with 3 years with the head coach, you'd have like an establishment on how this would go.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Snarl says Richie would have plowed that guy. I don't. Man, that's a tough one.
Protect your QB. Yeah. I know.
I feel like if it were a defensive player, Jerry Hughes would have had somebody's face mask. He would have had multiple players' face masks in his hands. Like Shaq Lawson, Jerry Hughes. I think those guys, Micah Hyde. I think those guys would have taken some heads with them. Right.
Yeah.
On the offense, who's going to do it? Dawkins? Morris?
If he puts down the mac and cheese bowl fast enough, I don't know. I could see Nasecki doing it. I could see Ford doing it, definitely. Ford did it already this year, and he got flagged for it. That could have been another thing. He got flagged for it earlier this year, and then McDermott probably said, "No, we'll take care of it on the field." I don't know. I mean, Feliciano, Galleries, you trying to say something about Italians? What's going on? But
Dawkins went to swing at somebody he just missed.
Oh my God! And there it is, and that's the rub. That's the rub. So we've covered Gore, we've covered Allen, we've covered the the end of the game. First quarter of the season, the Buffalo Bills are 3-1. Those of you that are just joining us, thank you for joining us. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and be sure to follow us on Sportscaster. The link is in the description right below us. Become a fan on Sportscaster. We're going to have exclusive pregame, 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays, exclusive to Sportscaster, and we're going to be calling the game with Joe from Believers Talk on Sundays, play-by-play. Be sure to join us for that. It's a good time. We have our streams every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 p.m. If we don't get a chance to get in the car, but I think this Sunday we're going to be getting in the car and give you guys some content from there. We know you guys do enjoy the drive, and a nice little reminder for Ryan Lasel. It's hashtag sports. The Sunday drive just isn't every day. I'm just trying to let him know that the Sunday drive is our main show on Sundays, but it's been curbed because of the season right now. It's just one of the shows.
Whenever we go on Rockpile Report, whenever we do anything with Ryan, it's always
brutal.
Paul Amaro with the Sunday drive. Like what's today? A Tuesday. Okay.
The line that Ryan says all the time. It's the Sunday drive, but it happens every other day of the week. I don't understand that. But that notwithstanding, here's Mario from hashtag sports. That's what I hear all the time.
We are getting asked a lot about special teams. Scott Blakely.
Can we get a new punter, please? We need a new punter.
Yeah. What?
I want a new punter.
Okay.
That's it. I want a new punter.
I see no problem with this.
No.
So the Bills, if you look around the league, right, there's something called snap to punt ratio, right, which is the amount of tenths of a second from snap to boot, right? And if you're looking at snap to punt ratio, the Bills are in the bottom third of the league in snap to punt ratio, right? It's slow. It's real slow. Patriots are clearly not going to miss that, and they rushed everybody that they had. They did not care about the Bills returning kicks.
No, they didn't.
Gave zero scruples. No scruples.
Oh, he didn't. He didn't. Oh, that's
zero scruples were given.
Yes.
But the snap was low on the block punt, but there were a couple things that happened there, right? So you had some special teams moved around from previous games, right? So Milano had been moved, Darryl Johnson had been moved, DeMarco was in at the wing, and they didn't call it right. It's DeMarco waved at his guy. I don't know why. I don't know what the call was, but it was just a mistake because the Patriots were just going to bring everybody they had to block that punt. Everyone. They didn't care. Let Andre Roberts return it. Go ahead. They did not care.
Yeah.
Paid off.
Yeah, and I understand what was going on with DeMarco. DeMarco was taking you're always taught to take the guy that has the least line, the shortest line to the punter. So he stepped in, and that's naturally a thing. But him giving that kind of Deion Dawkins kind of hand out to the outside wasn't something that, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. Kerfuffle wouldn't have been enough. Okay, all right. Yeah, I think we explored this. If you guys go through the vault of hashtag sports, Ryan actually sat in for Paul when Paul went to a golfing trip one time, and he explained the wonderful levels of a scuffle between players. He goes there, Donnybrook. Donnybrook definitely should have occurred when that hit happened on Allen. There should have been multiple players throwing haymakers on that. I think it was Donnybrook, kerfuffle. I can't remember what all the other ranks were of a melee of players. I can't remember them all, but that's pretty funny.
There's a funny ranking system there, right?
I can't remember it all. He'll probably type it in the chat.
Because one of our constant commenters and people that normally join us his name's Donnybrook.
I know, that's great. He's a cop too. It's wonderful.
Brouhaha, that's what it was.
Brouhaha is the. But it's funny because Donnybrook just has much more stronger connotation to it, than brouhaha. Brouhaha sounds like a joke. Of Donnybrook, there's some teeth missing. You know what I mean? It's just. No one. There's Donnie.
Oh, and there's Donnybrook. There we go.
Speak of the devil. So like I said, Hashtag Nation. We have, if you go to our posts, our community tab, we have the link you can have for the wristbands that we have. If you want those, I'm mailing all those out. Be sure that if you send them to Venmo, I can and you make it a private message and put your address down so I could send it to you, and you be the owner of a wonderful HTagSports.com What Drives You wristband, red, white, and blue. It's pretty awesome. I've been wearing my 2 ever since I got them, and they're phenomenal. They're not ripping. They're not doing anything. They're very sturdily made, Paul. They're sturdy. They're wonderfully sturdy. And then who was it said that thought his wife was cheating on him because he's up listening to us? I can't remember who it was. It was pretty. Let me see. It was Jablonski, Eric Jablonski.
So I've made this joke before, and I made this lightheartedly.
Oh boy.
But can we seriously consider somebody whose job it is to, every time McDermott wants to throw the challenge flag, just smack him right in the back of the hand, like, back, put that challenge flag right back in your pocket. Kind of like the guy who has to pull Sean McVay back from running into the referees. That's all his job is to like pull McVay back. I really feel like we need to talk about somebody there to smack that challenge flag out of McDermott's hand.
Yeah, you got to get a guy like Matt Damon in Ocean's 11 that could pick pockets really well, and just have him meet him at the beginning of the game, and he picks it and replaces it with like a napkin.
That's it.
A cocktail napkin.
Just sew it into McDermott's pants.
Sew it into his pants. That's phenomenal. Just real quick, because we're near the end of the stream, I just want to tell Ryan Rauber, I believe if I'm butchering your name, I apologize. He says, will you discuss the Bills' penalties and how much they kill drives? I think it'd be a great one to end on for tonight. She's got a rolling pin. Sorry, Eric, I didn't know. So we're talking about the Bills' penalties and how they kill drives. I think one of the main things is that you have such inexperience on the offense. You have a lot of new moving parts, and it's not going to be taken care of. Chemistry is not going to be developed over 1 OTAs in 1 camp and 3 games. I think it's kind of going to be like par for the course for this team until they can get used to playing with each other. These guys are professionals. It's not going to take very long. However, some of the penalties, you know what? Being a quarterback, I sometimes, all right, if it comes down to me getting killed and you having a holding penalty, hold them. Okay? Hold. I understand that. However, it's not going to happen overnight. They got, like I said, they got a lot of new moving parts. I don't know. Paul, what do you think about the penalties killing some of these drives for the Buffalo Bills?
Holding on a free play is the most frustrating part of being a Bills fan. I was so furious that there was a holding call on a free play. What are you doing? What are you doing? That was it for me.
I almost tried to defend him during the game because I said the offsides was on the other side of the line away from him so he couldn't see it. Why doesn't he take a page out of Brian Balaga's book? Balaga looks in at the ball the entire time. So he can get the jump better than the guy. You believe that? And he handled Khalil Mack that first week. He did really well against Khalil Mack, which is not an easy feat. So Brian Balaga. I don't know why a lot of those things happen with the Buffalo Bills. So
well, Apex 00 says false starts are unacceptable.
Yep.
If you have Matt Barkley starting next week, understand cadences are going to be different.
Yes.
So it is very possible that the line's going to look slow and sluggish, or you're going to get some false start penalties because the cadences are going to be different. Even though they're going to have a full week to try and get it on board, the fact is that there's a very big difference between quarterbacks and how they like to call the game. Even though it might be the same call, it's not the same. So be ready. Be ready for that. But Ryan brings up a great point. Personal foul should never offset a common foul. And we talked about that on the play-by-play, and that is something that is not called out in TJ mentioned the same thing, personal fouls offsetting by holding. That's something that's not called out in NFL rule books, but they're not equal. This is not apples to apples.
Yeah, if you see a flag thrown on the offense, that gives you free reign to go kill somebody legally under the rules of the NFL. And, Ryan and I were calling the Brockport game on Saturday, and we had a similar play where on a scoring play, there was a kid that got ejected, and they said, well, 15 yards on the kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the guy was already kicking bombs into the end zone, and you give him 15 more yards. That doesn't make any sense. I really don't.
Well,
I really don't think that makes any sense.
There is a stipulation in the NFL rules that they finally did add where if there is a penalty on a touchdown, you can assess it, right? If there's an after the touchdown, if there's a penalty after the play, you can assess it on the extra point now. So the team has the option to assess penalties on extra points.
Yeah, it's a dead ball foul, though. I mean, I'm talking about if during the play they always offset each other. If it's a dead ball foul, that's different. You know what I mean? You can have
Right, but my point was that the NFL has adjusted these rules, right? So before it was always assessed on the kickoff. The extra point was the next play, but it was never ever impacted by any of that. Now it can be. So the NFL has shown that they will review these rules, and for player safety, offsetting an offsetting personal foul versus some nonsense other foul, it from a player safety standpoint doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Deion Dawkins had a questionable holding on a play where Allen got killed. I don't understand that at all. If the immediate repercussion of a play like that's dirty, like the whole remember the Gronk on Trey White?
Mm-hmm.
I suggested that the NFL should do this. However long the player is out is how long that one player that committed the penalty should be out.
Mm-hmm.
So if you hurt a guy and you take his season away, you're not allowed to play another game that season. I know that's drastic, and you can't tell. The guy could just not play the rest of the year, just to try to get you out of your game. But it would limit some of the ways that these guys always try to go headhunting and all the other nonsense. So, that's as far as that's all I got for tonight. On Thursday, Paul and I will be coming to you from our cell phones. And we'll be giving you the Tennessee Titans breakdown. On Wednesday, we will give you our hype video that we've been doing every week that Paul just shakes his head at me every time I do it. But I think
I just wake up in the morning and see that you posted something.
And I think he enjoys it. Someone on WGR said the same thing to Sal on Monday, Mario. It probably was me, Hen Dog. I don't even know. I don't listen to WGR anymore. But be sure that you give us a subscribe and be a fan on Sportscaster. Link is in the description. Thank you, #Nation, as always, for joining us tonight and taking time out of your day to join Paul and I to talk about the Bills. And 3-1 is nothing to be upset about. The Bills are headed in the right direction. They got some things they have to clean up. We know that, and hopefully they'll do it for. Hopefully they'll go into the bye at 4-1, and they'll come out of the bye at 5-1 automatically before they're playing the Dolphins because they're awful. Anyway, we'll be sure to be here Thursday to give you our breakdown of the Titans game, a little bit of that, and then we'll have our exclusive to Sportscaster preview of the Titans versus the Bills on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. Be sure to check that out. For Paul, I am Mario, and we're out of here for tonight.